A Tale of Magic. Chapter 7. Permission. "Perhaps I wasn't clear," Madame Weatherberry said to the crowd of bewildered faces. "I'm looking for a young woman named Bristol Evergreen. Would one of you be kind enough to point her out?" Without saying a word, the Edgars, the wardens, and all the young women from the facility turned in Bristol's direction. Madame Weatherberry hadn't noticed her dangling above the well until now, and she gasped. "Is that Miss Evergreen hanging up there?" she asked, in disbelief. "What on earth are you doing to her? Bring her down this instant." "We do not take orders from outsiders," Mr. Edgar shouted. The woman raised an eyebrow at the administrator. "Very well," she said. "I'll do it myself." Madame Weatherberry clapped her hands, and suddenly Bristol's wrists and neck were released from the Dunker's wooden board. But instead of dropping into the freezing water below, Bristol's body floated out of the well and descended gently to the ground. Mr. and Mrs. Edgar shrieked at Madame Weatherberry's magic. "You demon girl!" Mrs. Edgar yelled at Bristol. "First you conjure a flock of wicked birds, and now you've summoned a witch. You've plagued this facility with sin." "Excuse me, but I'm not a witch," Madame Weatherberry corrected. "And I don't mean to be rude, but it looks like this place has been plagued with worse things than sin. A fresh coat of paint would do wonders. Wait a moment. Did you say Miss Evergreen conjured a flock of birds?" The woman was clearly impressed and turned to Bristol with a wide grin. Bristol didn't respond. She was still trying to process all the events from before Madame Weatherberry had arrived. Although she could see and hear the woman, Bristol wasn't present enough to accept that Madame Weatherberry, the unicorns, and the golden carriage were actually in front of her. "You listen to me, madame," Mr. Edgar barked. "I don't care who or what you are. We do not accept your kind here. Leave this facility at once." "I think that's a splendid idea," Madame Weatherberry said, "but Miss Evergreen will be coming with me." No one was more shocked to hear this than Bristol herself. She couldn't imagine what Madame Weatherberry wanted with her, but it was just one of many things that were confusing her at the moment. But before she could ask any questions, Mr. and Mrs. Edgar stepped in front of Bristol and blocked her from going anywhere near the woman. "You will do no such thing," Mr. Edgar roared. "This girl has been sentenced to the Bootstrap Correctional Facility by High Justice Montclair of Chariot Hills. She will remain in our care until the High Justice notifies us otherwise." Madame Weatherberry seemed amused by this theatrical protest. She raised an open hand, and a golden scroll with a silver ribbon appeared out of thin air. Madame Weatherberry unrolled the document and presented it to the administrators. The Edgar's eyes grew large at the sight of King Champion the 11th's curvy signature and official royal seal at the bottom of the scroll. "I've been given the King's permission to collect Miss Evergreen, and as any law-abiding citizen knows, His Majesty's wishes outrank the High Justice," she said. "But if you have any objections you would like to share with the King, please be my guest." Mr. and Mrs. Edgar exchanged nervous glances and then took a defeated step aside. Even they weren't self-righteous enough to challenge the King. Bristol didn't think she could be more puzzled than she already was. But learning that King Champion was somehow involved made her dizzy. Madame Weatherberry sensed her perplexity and knelt in front of Bristol to look her in the eye. "Are you all right, my dear?" she asked. "Sorry," Bristol said. "I'm a bit fuzzy." "I'm sure this is quite a shock for you," the woman said. "If I were in your shoes, I'd be terrified of a strange lady with unicorns. But you have absolutely nothing to fear. I've come to take you away for a wonderful opportunity, and I promise you'll be perfectly safe with me." Madame Weatherberry removed a handkerchief from the pocket of her gown and wiped the dirt off Bristol's face. There was something so warm and comforting about the woman. She practically glowed with kindness, even in her confused state. Bristol knew she could trust her. "Now, Miss Evergreen, would you like to gather your things and join me in the carriage?" I don't have my things," Bristol said. "Oh," Madame Weatherberry said. "Well, there's nothing wrong with being a minimalist. The unicorns appreciate light travelers." "But where are we going?" Bristol asked. Instead of answering her, Madame Weatherberry eyed Mr. and Mrs. Edgar, who were shamelessly eavesdropping on her and Bristol's conversation. "I'm afraid I can't discuss that here," she said. "But I'll answer your questions and explain everything on the way. Now, shall we?" "Can I bring my friend Pip?" Bristol asked. "She's small and won't take up much room." "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but the king has only given me permission to collect one girl," Madame Weatherberry said. "Your friend will have to stay here with the others." Bristol shook her head slowly and backed away from the woman. Being whisked away from the facility was a dream come true, but she would never forgive herself if she left Pip behind. "I can't do it," she said. "I'm sorry, but I can't leave her." Madame Weatherberry caressed Bristol's cheek. My dear, I wish you didn't have to," she said. "I'm not going to force you to come with me, but I believe you're going to be very happy where we're headed. Please reconsider." "I want to," Bristol said. "I just couldn't live with myself if I left her." "Bristol, are you nuts?" Bristol turned to the crowd of young women behind her and saw Pip pushing her way to the front. "What are you waiting for?" her friend said. "Get out of here while you can." "No, Pip," Bristol said. "I can't leave you alone in this place." "But I'm used to being alone in this place," Pip said. "This facility has been my home since I was a toddler, remember? And technically, I've been getting into more trouble with you around, so maybe you'll be doing me a favor by leaving." "I don't even know where I'm going," Bristol said. "What if I never see you again?" "Then at least one of us got out of here," she said. "And if you waste your only chance on me, I'll never speak to you again. So there, now you have to go." Pip gave Bristol no choice, but she didn't make leaving any easier. With a heavy heart and tearful eyes, Bristol gave her small friend a hug goodbye. "We've wasted enough time for one day," Mr. Edgar yelled at the young woman. "Everyone go inside at once. Get ready for your chores." Like roaches, all the young women scrambled into the facility, and Pip slipped away from Bristol's embrace. Madame Weatherberry offered Bristol her hand and escorted her to the golden carriage. The inside of the carriage had tufted silk seats and velvet curtains, quite a contrast to the facility's decor. And as she sat on the seat across from Madame Weatherberry, Bristol was reminded of how comfortable a cushion was. The carriage's ceiling was covered in leafy vines that grew berries in every color of the rainbow. "Are those real?" Bristol asked. "Yes," Madame Weatherberry said. "You must be famished. Please help yourself." Bristol didn't have to be told twice. She plucked the fruit from the ceiling and devoured it whole. It was the most delicious food she had ever tasted, and every time she pulled a handful of berries from the vines, a new bunch magically appeared in its place. The carriage door shut on its own, and the unicorns raced down the path through the property. By the time Bristol had finished eating, the Bootstrap Correctional Facility had already disappeared in the bleak distance behind them. "It was very considerate of you to think of your friend," Madame Weatherberry said. "Not many people would have done that." "She doesn't deserve to be there," Bristol said. "None of the girls do." Madame Weatherberry nodded and let out a prolonged sigh. "This may be difficult to hear, but the girls at the facility are lucky compared to the others I've seen," she said. "What the world does to people like you and me is a downright tragedy, and humanity's understanding of magic is one of the greatest misconceptions of our time." Bristol did a double take. Madame Weatherberry's choice of words reminded her of something she had read a couple of weeks earlier. "Wait a second," she said. "Are you the Celeste Weatherberry, the author of The Truth About Magic?" Madame Weatherberry was shocked to hear Bristol mention the title of her book. "Why, yes," she said in disbelief. "But how did you know that?" "The Truth About Magic is the reason I was sent to the Bootstrap Correctional Facility," Bristol explained. "I found a copy in a secret section of the library I worked at. It was with all the other books that have been banned from the Southern Kingdom." "Well, I can't imagine a greater compliment for an author than making the banned book section." Madame Weatherberry laughed. "Did you read my book?" "As much as I could," Bristol said. I read all about the history of magic, the difference between fairies and witches, and how the world mistakes magic for witchcraft. Eventually, I got to the part with the ancient incantations, and I foolishly read them aloud. The librarian caught me conjuring magic, and the High Justice sent me to the facility to get cured of it." "How absurd," she said. "Magic isn't an illness. It can't be cured. What kind of magic did you conjure when you read the text?" "It's been different each time," Bristol exclaimed. "The first time I covered a room in flowers. The second time I made thousands of lights appear. And this morning a flock of birds showed up. That's why I was hanging in the well." Madame Weatherberry moved to the edge of her seat. "Had you experienced anything magical prior to reading the text in my book?" "No," Bristol said with a shrug. "I never even suspected I was capable until then." "Is that a bad thing?" "On the contrary," she said. "Magic presents itself differently to each of us. Some fairies have magical traits and abilities from birth, and some develop them later in life. Usually, beginners can only alter the elements around them, but a talent for manifestation is rarely found in novices. With practice and proper instruction, you could develop your abilities into something quite extraordinary." Madame Weatherberry became lost in thought and rubbed her chin as she thought of Bristol's potential. The woman's curiosity made Bristol uneasy. She still had so many questions, and they only seemed to multiply in Madame Weatherberry's presence. "Madame Weatherberry, can you please tell me what's going on?" Bristol asked. "Why did the king give you permission to take me out of the facility?" "Oh, I apologize for leaving you in suspense," Madame Weatherberry said. "As you may have gathered from reading The Truth About Magic, I'm on a mission to change the world's perception of magic. And if everything goes according to my plan, we can create a new world that finally accepts and respects people like us." "But how?" she asked. "Where did you even begin?" Madame Weatherberry's eyes twinkled with excitement. "With a school for magic." "A school?" "Right now, I'm calling it Madame Weatherberry's Academy of Magical Comprehension, but it's still a working title," she said. "With compassion and guidance, I'm going to teach young fairies to harness and develop their abilities. Once their training is complete, my students and I will use magic to help and heal people around the world. With time, our acts of kindness will change people's opinions, and they'll realize magic isn't the vile practice they fear. The magical community will be embraced, and all the senseless violence and hatred toward us will become a thing of the past." "And you want me to join your academy?" Bristol asked. "Of course I do," Madame Weatherberry said. "Why else would I have made the trip to collect you?" Bristol tried to make sense of it all, but her day had been so overwhelming it was impossible to think clearly. "But the facility was filled with girls who have been doing magic their entire lives," she said. "Why choose me?" "Because you were the brightest star on my map," Madame Weatherberry said. Before Bristol could ask what she meant, Madame Weatherberry moved up the armrest of her seat to reveal a secret compartment. She removed a large scroll and carefully unrolled it across her lap. As soon as the document was opened, the carriage was filled with shimmering light. It was a regular map of the world, showing the borders of the four kingdoms and the in-between, but it was sprinkled with hundreds of twinkling stars. "What is this?" Bristol asked, wide-eyed. "It's a map of magic," Madame Weatherberry said. "Every speck of light represents a different fairy or witch who's living in the world today. The brighter the light, the more powerful the magic. King Champion only permitted me to recruit 2 students from the Southern Kingdom, so I've decided to recruit the brightest students I can find." "And I was one of the brightest lights?" Bristol asked. Madame Weatherberry nodded and pointed to the northeast corner of the Southern Kingdom on the map. "Do you see this cluster of small lights here? Those are the girls at the Bootstrap Correctional Facility. But these larger lights, slowly moving away from the others, represent you and me." Madame Weatherberry touched the smaller of the two, and as if written by an invisible quill, the name Bristol Evergreen appeared beside it. Then she tapped the bigger star, and the name Celeste Weatherberry appeared next. Bristol was awestruck as she looked over the map. She hadn't known so many fairies and witches existed in the world. Now that Madame Weatherberry's point had been made, she rolled up the map and placed it back in the compartment under the armrest. "Do you have to follow the king's instructions?" Bristol asked. "Surely he wouldn't notice if you recruited 1 or 2 extra students along the way." "Unfortunately, it's best if I do," Madame Weatherberry said. "I've been down this road many times before. If we want acceptance in this world, then we must be very careful about how we seek acceptance. No one is going to respect us if we cut corners or cause problems. I could have snapped my fingers and transported all the girls out of the facility, but it would only have caused people to resent us more. Hatred is like fire, and no one can extinguish fire by giving it fuel." I wish hatred was fire," Bristol said. "People like the Edgars and the Justices deserve to be burned for how they treat people." "Without question," Madame Weatherberry said. "However, we cannot let vengeance motivate us and distract us from doing what's right. It may seem like justice, but revenge is a double-edged sword. The longer you hold it, the deeper you cut yourself." Bristol sighed. "I just feel so bad for those girls at the facility," she said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces in my mind. I wish there was a way we could help them. But we are helping them. We may not save your friends today or tomorrow, but with patience and diplomacy, we can make a lasting difference. So girls like Pip are never sent to places like the Bootstrap Correctional Facility ever again." Bristol understood what Madame Weatherberry was saying, but her plan seemed too ambitious to work. The world would require a tremendous change of heart to accept magic, and she couldn't picture the world changing that much. "I'm sorry, but it feels like an unrealistic goal," she said. "I'd like to imagine a world where fairies can live openly and honestly, where they can live happily without fear or persecution. But I can't." "Every accomplishment in history started as an unrealistic goal," Madame Weatherberry said. "As preposterous future is built, a prosperous future is built by the persistence of its past. And we can't let doubt hold our persistence hostage. What I'm suggesting isn't certain, and it isn't going to be easy, but we have to at least try. Even if we fail, every step we take forward will be a step our successors won't have to take." Although she still felt a bit cynical, Bristol was inspired by Madame Weatherberry's passion. She had never imagined a future for herself that involved a school for magic, but in many ways Madame Weatherberry was offering her the purpose and future she had always dreamed about. Whether they successfully changed the world or not, a life devoting to helping people and developing their magical abilities was infinitely better than living in the Bootstrap Correctional Facility. "It sounds like an adventure," she said. "I would love to join your Academy of Magic." "I'm delighted to hear it," Madame Weatherbury said. Delighted and relieved. Unicorns hate changing directions mid-journey. "Where is your school?" Bristol asked. "It sits in the southeast in between the southern and eastern kingdoms," Madame Weatherbury said. "Don't let the location worry you. The academy is very well protected. I spared no expense to keep it safe. But first, we'll have to make a brief stop so I can get your parents' permission to take you." "What?" Bristol exclaimed. "But why do we need their permission?" "The king was adamant that I get approval from my pupils' guardians," she said. "And as I explained, it's important we follow his wishes." Bristol had suspected Madame Weatherbury's plan was too good to be true, and now she had proof. Just as she had started looking forward to a new life at the Academy of Magic, the rug was pulled out from under her, and her high hopes came crashing down. "We should turn around," Bristol said. "My father is a very well-known justice in the Southern Kingdom. He had sent me to the Bootstrap Correctional Facility as a personal favor, and so no one would ever find out that I was arrested for magic. He'll never let me attend your school." Madame Weatherbury waved her hand like Bristol's concern was a harmless fly. "Don't worry, dear. I'm very persuasive," she said. I managed to get the king's blessing. How hard could a justice be? We'll have a nice chat when we see him this evening." "This evening?" Bristol asked. "But my family lives in Chariot Hills. It's a 2-day journey." Madame Weatherbury was charmed by Bristol's obliviousness, and a coy smile grew on her face. "Actually, unicorns make better time than average horses," she said, and gestured to the window. "Take a look for yourself." Bristol had been so wrapped up in their conversation she hadn't taken a glimpse at the window since they left. But when she finally did, her mouth dropped open. The golden carriage was moving through the northeast plains. At lightning speed, the dismal land zipped past her window so quickly it was all a blur. "I think I'm going to like magic," she said. By dusk, the unicorns reached the outskirts of Chariot Hills and slowed to a normal pace. They pulled the golden carriage through the busy town square, and all the pedestrians froze as Bristol and Madame Weatherbury drove past them. Bristol saw a cluster of her former classmates among the gawking crowd. As she rolled by, the girls went as white as their uniforms, and their eyes doubled in size. Bristol gave them a friendly wave, but quickly realized this was a mistake because it caused one of the girls to faint. The golden carriage took the path into the eastern countryside, and soon the evergreen home appeared in the distance. Although Bristol hadn't been gone very long, it felt like years had passed since she was home. The unicorn stopped in front of the house, and Madame Weatherbury climbed out of the carriage, but Bristol lingered behind. "Don't worry, I'll handle this," Madame Weatherbury said. "Trust me." She offered Bristol her hand and helped her to the ground. They approached the front door, and Madame Weatherbury gave it a cheerful knock with her gloved left hand. A few moments later, Bristol heard her mother's footsteps in the entryway behind the door. I'm coming, she grumbled. "What can I do for—" As soon as the door opened, Mrs. Evergreen shrieked and covered her mouth like she was seeing a ghost. Bristol was taken aback by her mother's appearance, too. She noticed that the circles under Mrs. Evergreen's eyes had grown darker, and her bun was pulled even tighter. Clearly, doing all the household chores without help had taken a toll on her. "Hello, Mother," Bristol said sheepishly. Surprise! Bristol! Her mother cried. What in the Lord's blue skies are you doing here? It's a long story, she said. Before Bristol had a chance to explain, Mrs. Evergreen threw her arms around her daughter and hugged her so tight she couldn't breathe. I didn't think I would ever see you again, she said, tears in her eyes. Your father said you were caught conjuring magic at the library. I didn't believe it. I told him there had been a mistake. My beautiful girl couldn't be capable of such a thing. Then your brothers told me about that awful trial. I swear, if I ever see that Justice Oldbrigade, I will strangle him until he's a normal color. They said the High Justice sent you to a facility in the Northeast to be cured. Have they cured you already? Is that why you've come back? Bristol winced at her mother's wishful thinking. It wasn't going to be easy for her to hear the truth. Mrs. Evergreen was so pleased to see her daughter that she hadn't noticed Madam Weatherbury or the golden carriage until now. Who are you? She asked. Hello, Mrs. Evergreen. My name is Madam Weatherbury, she said. Forgive me for showing up unannounced. I was given permission by His Majesty to remove Bristol from the Bootstrap Correctional Facility for a special project I'm developing. May I have a word with you and your husband to discuss it? Oh? Mrs. Evergreen was surprised to hear this. My husband only had one child this afternoon, so he should be home momentarily. Please come in and I'll make some tea while you wait. Mrs. Evergreen escorted Bristol and Madam Weatherbury to the sitting room and then stepped into the kitchen to make tea. As Madam Weatherbury looked around, she was tickled by the Evergreens' mismatched furniture and wallpaper. Your house is so thrifty, she said. My father isn't a fan of extravagance, Bristol said. It shows. Mrs. Evergreen turned to the sitting room with a tray of tea. Please have a seat, she said while she served them. I imagine you're both very tired from your journey. Your father said the facility is all the way at the tip of the Northeast Plains. Actually, the trip flew by, Bristol said with a nervous laugh. How long are you staying? Mrs. Evergreen asked. Your brothers usually don't get home from the courthouse until late. They'll be sorry if they miss you. I can't imagine our conversation with Father will last very long, Bristol said. We'll probably be on our way shortly after he arrives. Please give Brooks and Barry my love. I will, Mrs. Evergreen said, and then looked her daughter up and down with concern. Oh, Bristol, what have they done to you at that facility? You're practically skin and bones. I hope they're helping you at least, with your condition. Not exactly, Bristol said. Before she elaborated, their conversation was interrupted by the sounds of her father's carriages pulling up to the house. Bristol took a deep breath to mentally prepare herself for what was to come. A few moments later, Justice Evergreen entered the house and charged down the hall. He hadn't even seen his daughter yet and was already in a temper. Why is there a ridiculous carriage and 4 flamboyant horses outside our house? He shouted. What will the neighbors think if they see? As the justice barged into the sitting room, Madam Weatherbury and Bristol rose from their chairs to greet him. It took a few seconds for Justice Evergreen to recognize his daughter, and when he did, his face turned bright red. His nostrils flared, and he growled like a defensive animal. What is she doing in my house? He barked. Mrs. Evergreen jumped in front of her husband and waved like a crown distracting a bull. Please don't get upset yet, she pleaded. This woman has removed Bristol from the facility with permission from the king. The king? What could he possibly want with her? I don't know. They just arrived, Mrs. Evergreen said. Give them a chance to explain. A few deep breaths later, Justice Evergreen had taken a reluctant seat on the sofa across from his daughter. Madam Weatherbury extended her arm to shake the justice's hand, but he didn't accept the gesture. Justice Evergreen, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, she said. My name is Madam Weatherbury. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Get to the point, he ordered. Ah, I see you're a man who appreciates a good summary, Madam Weatherbury said. Well, I'll make this short. I'm here because King Champion has given me permission to open an academy. I'm traveling through the Southern Kingdom to recruit students. But my academy isn't your typical school. It's an academy for very special children with very unique abilities. Mrs. Evergreen clapped her hands in celebration. Why, that's wonderful! His Majesty wants our daughter to join a special school. What do you mean, unique abilities? The justice asked suspiciously. I sincerely doubt you're recruiting academics. I doubt you're recruiting academics or athletes from correctional houses. Well, if I may be completely transparent with you, Madam Weatherbury said with hesitation, it's a school for magic. Bristol could practically hear her father's heartbeat as his blood pressure soared. Excuse me? He roared. I'm calling it Madam Weatherbury's Academy of Magical Endeavors and Philosophy. But don't get attached to the name. It's still a work in progress. She explained. I promised His Majesty that I would get permission from my students' parents before recruiting them. So if you don't have any objections, I'll ask you to sign Bristol's permission form. Madam Weatherbury pointed at the tea table, and a golden document appeared with a long feathered quill beside it. The Justice and Mrs. Evergreen both jumped at the sight of magic in their own house. All the details are spelled out on the form if you'd like to take a moment to read it, Madam Weatherbury said. Bristol knew her father was already upset, but seeing the permission form infuriated him so much he turned the color of a tomato. He seized the form from the table and ripped it into shreds. How dare you disrespect me with such a request? She yelled. Actually, Justice Evergreen, it would be more disrespectful if we didn't seek your approval, Madam Weatherbury said. You see, I wanted everything about my academy to be handled tastefully and properly, and that starts with how I acquire my students. Our objective is to show the world that the magical community is much more decent than the justice was enraged by her words and knocked over the table with one angry swipe of his arms. The teacups hit the floor and shattered into pieces. I'd rather see my daughter rot in jail than turn her over to the likes of you, he shouted. There's no need to make a mess, Mrs. Evergreen said. Let's all take a deep breath and I'll get us some more tea. Mrs. Evergreen scooped up the broken teacups and the shredded permission form into her apron and hurried into the kitchen. Bristol closed her eyes and pretended she was somewhere else. It didn't matter how many deep breaths her father took. She knew he would never change his mind, but Madam Weatherbury wasn't ready to give up. Sir, I understand your passionate opposition, she said. You think I'm trying to take your daughter to a despicable place and teach her despicable things, but you're only imagining this because your perception of magic is flawed. I am a justice of the Southern Kingdom, madam. There is nothing flawed about my perception. And in your impressive career, I'm sure you've presided over many cases that were caused by an unfortunate misunderstanding. I assure you, magic is like one of these misunderstandings. In fact, it's the single greatest misconception of our magic is an abomination in the eyes of the law and the eyes of the Lord. Do not insult my intelligence by pretending otherwise. Justice Evergreen, you of all people know that the laws and religion of the Southern Kingdom have altered over time to reflect the opinions of those in power. Magic is a victim to that tradition. What the world thinks is a dreadful and wicked sin is actually a beautiful and nurturing gift. Your daughter is blessed with a very rare and powerful talent. In recent weeks, she has shown remarkable potential, and I believe my academy would be a wonderful opportunity for her to develop. I will not have my daughter tarnish my good name by practicing magic. But the king himself has approved my academy. It may cause some awkwardness at first, but in time, your daughter's magic will be a source of great pride for you. One day, the whole world may know her name and look up to her as a symbol of kindness and compassion. Her reputation may very well exceed your own, and she could become the most admired evergreen to ever. Enough! The justice yelled and jumped to his feet. I will not hear another word from this nonsense. You will take my daughter back to the Bootstrap Correctional Facility, where she belongs at once. Now get out of my house. Justice Evergreen stormed out of the room, but before he entered the hall, he turned back to Bristol to give her one final scornful glare. I should have let them execute you, he said. Her father's words shattered Bristol into more pieces than all the teacups he had knocked to the floor. Once Justice Evergreen was out of her sight, it took Bristol a few moments to regain her senses. Madam Weatherbury shook her head, appalled by the justice's cruel remarks. Well, that could have gone better, she said. Don't lose hope just yet, Bristol. We'll find a way around this. Bristol appreciated Madam Weatherbury's optimism, but she knew there was nothing she could do that wouldn't break her promise to the king. Without her father's permission, her only option was to return to the facility. It was a mistake to come here, Bristol said. We should leave. Bristol and Madam Weatherbury showed themselves to the front door. As they stepped outside and headed for the golden carriage, Bristol's spirits were so low she was afraid she might sink into the ground. Just as she was about to climb into the carriage, Mrs. Evergreen emerged from the house and ran after her daughter. Bristol, she called. Mother, I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye, Bristol said. I didn't want to see your face when I told you Here, Mrs. Evergreen said. Take this. Her mother discreetly slid a folded piece of paper into her daughter's hand. Bristol opened it and couldn't believe what she was looking at. Mrs. Evergreen had sewn together the permission form and signed the bottom of it. Mother, she gasped, what have you done? Mrs. Evergreen pulled Bristol into a tight embrace so she could whisper directly into her daughter's ear. Keep your voice down in case your father is listening from inside, her mother said. The form says it only requires the signature of one parent. I don't care what your father thinks. You're my daughter too, and I will not stand the thought of you getting worked to death in that awful facility. Now you go to that school and make a life that you can be proud of. Get as far away from here as you can and find the happiness you deserve. And please, for your own sake, don't come back to this miserable house again. Before Bristol had the chance to respond, Mrs. Evergreen released her daughter and hurried back inside the house. Bristol was left speechless by her mother's actions. She couldn't think, she couldn't breathe, and she couldn't move. She just stayed perfectly still and stared at the house in shock. Bristol, are you all right? Madam Weatherbury asked. What happened? My mother just handed me a new life, she said. Wow, so that was Chapter 7 of A Tale of Magic. Bye.